Yes.
Good day to everybody. Welcome to this webinar of a complete review of Alfred Desktop, a desktop user interface, alternative user interface for Alfresco. In the past, we have run through announcements of what is new at each version. And now we would like to run a demo of all functionality, or at least the highlights of the functionality of the user interface, and explain with some of our customer cases how this user interface is applied at different customers in the field. So we will start with a first introduction of XeniT, short introduction. I will position a little bit the Alfred Desktop functionality or application. Then we'll have a 30-minute demonstration of Alfred Desktop, and we will run through three use cases, recent use cases that we have implemented at different customers. First of all, XeniT is a partner of Alfresco since 2007, and since 2010 we introduce products complementary to Alfresco. These products are really extending Alfresco or are enabling you to exploit better the true power of Alfresco. So these solutions are available to as well customers with own IT teams or through partners that could use these solutions into your Alfresco implementations. So we have branded it as the Alfred products, and they unlock the true value of Alfresco and the true power of Alfresco. Alfred Desktop is the first product in a line, and it has been available since 2010. So we have a series of long-standing customers that are still using the Alfred Desktop user interface over all the different versions that have been available during the past 7 or 8 years. When we look to our customers, we do have full-size customers where we implement also the Alfresco backend, but many of the customers are only using our products. And in these categories, we see both government organizations as well as companies that are in the insurance and finance, as well as engineering and infrastructure groups. So these are the three main areas in which we encounter customers. So we are active in all over the world, in multiple regions. The main activity is in Europe, as we are based in Belgium, but we do have customers in Australia, and we do have customers in Canada. The National Pension Fund is one, and in the States, and recently 2 departments of New York City have signed up, and Intel Corporation in Texas has signed up for our products to be used on top of the Alfresco environment. So that's about some customers. I will now introduce Alfred Desktop. It's definitely a user interface, Windows, Microsoft Explorer, and the reason why we introduced it was because of the questions that we received already back in 2007 that the power of Alfresco is great, but could you provide that functionality in a user interface which is very familiar for the end users? And namely Microsoft Explorer, browsing the shared drives is something that people are used to have and to use. So user adoption has always been a challenge. When you present related to documents a web-based solution which doesn't have the same navigation style as the people are used to see. Secondly, there are in ECM a lot of projects that fail due to poor content management practices or not creating the right content model. If you are using the Alfred Desktop, then at least the focus doesn't go to how is the user interface. That is a given, that is the definition. You can focus more and better on building a very good and strong content model to support the document processes. Nevertheless, if you have a difficult user adoption and your document model is not worked out well, then obviously there's only one extra element that you can work on, and it's massively training the people and convincing them to use it. And as you know, in that sense, training cost is a very expensive cost, so you would like to try to avoid this. And by using the Alfred Desktop, you comply with these concerns, and the real focus goes to really the content, because the user adoption is by definition available. Obviously, you have to take care about the performance, but that is something that all the partners of Alfresco, the well-certified partners, are able to provide. What is specific to the Alfred Desktop is that we have built, next to under the hood techniques to speed up the interaction between the desktop and the server, we have built in a lot of extra functionality, user layer functionality, so that it is able to get closer to the working environment of the user, meaning he has a way of working, and we provide personalization functions, enabling the user to create his, from the corporate structure, a personal working environment. So that he feels comfortable in the way it is presented, and that he interacts more quickly with the environment. Secondly, we have extended the search functionality and gave it a similar layout as the navigation. And so due to that, the power is in the hand of the end users to create his own search criteria and save those search criteria. We also support workflow, but not only workflow, but also case management. And obviously, as the layout is very known and we use elements in design that are recognized by the user, there's close to no training required, and that are benefits that we bring to the table. As you can see, the navigation layout, and I will limit here the explanation because we are going to show this in a live demo. We have a navigation area, we have a detailed result pane, we have a metadata pane and a preview pane. This is easily to be recognized by the user because he's 100% familiar with this. And notice that we have business metadata columns, which are very handy in the day-to-day work. Secondly, we have a search interface, which enables the end user to define its own search criteria and save it as a template. Next to that, he can continue to filter down or narrow down the search so that he really finds the information that he is looking for. And as a safe search, he can run over it again to run the same query, but then with different parameters. Okay. So really the users adore it. We have had no case, we have had all cases where users came back to the IT department saying, this is great, and the word of mouth spread along the organization, and other people knocked at the door to start working with the same functionality or the same tools. So it has become a workhorse tool on your desktop, like you have your email, like you have your navigation, like you have your Office. The Alfred Desktop belongs to the standard tool sets for all Office workers. Speed. It's all about speed. That is the prime functionality of a good user interface or a good application. So not only in the functionality, which enables the users to execute several commands in one move, like the bulk metadata edit, but also under the hood, we do some caching on the desktop. So as you navigate and you are searching, all the results are cached and used if the user are pushing for the same requests, then we use the cache, the local cache, to present things further, while we have smart technology to update the cache as the user continues to work. So speed is definitely a prime concern of our engineers to make it go fast. Additionally, in the implementation, as the user interface interacts with the models of Alfresco in a quite standard way, the implementation of the user interface is a question of a few days. If you have an existing model, then Intel was able, with their own team and a guidance of the XeniT team, to have it implemented on their Alfresco with their document model in less than a week with full functioning and being able to present it to the end users. Third is that Alfred Desktop brings value to all participants, whether it is the end user or the manager or the team leader or the IT. It is really a valuable tool for everybody, because everybody will start to use Alfresco in more intensively. Secondly, there are a lot of elements that guide the user so that the quality of the work is also raised, and the guidance is making the user it easier to provide the right metadata, to use the right template, and as such create more valuable content, which in return will lead to a better search result. And this is an ongoing stream of interaction between all the players, so that the return on investment on your initial implementation of Alfresco without Alfred Desktop is raised considerably due to this user interface. So what we do is we empower the end users. It looks like a shared drive, but it has the full functionality of Alfresco, and it guides the users and gives them freedom to organize themselves. There's a lot of rich functionality which comes on top of Alfresco, like the bulk metadata edits, or compare Word versions, or downloading and locking a full folder and the content. And you can upload the folder and the content again, and it will compare what is on the server and what is on your desktop. So it uploads only the differences between. All this functionalities comes on top of Alfresco. So the speed, the guidance, the drag and drop flexibility, and the dynamic behavior, the multiple business views makes it that you can execute your work faster and get it done much faster than with a standard web user interface. So raise of productivity. Some of the key customers, I will not go into these in detail, but we both have governmental organizations, but also private organizations. So Trafigura is a company that does trading in common goods. They have 130 billion US dollar turnover, and between 4,000 and 5,000 employees in over 50 countries all over the world. They have one Alfresco data center in the UK, and you can imagine that all the connections from all the companies or all the countries are not optimum. So also the desktop has been optimized for this weak communication and narrow bandwidth, so that the user experience is optimized in that way. So all the 4,500 employees are using Alfred Desktop to interact with the Alfresco environment. So we move to the demonstration now. The demonstration that I'm going to provide is with a server which is located in Germany, and I'm based in Leuven. I'm from the office, just interacting with that server. One of the first features that I explained was the feature of speed, and I always like to demonstrate this. You can see that we have 50 objects. Here we have 100 objects. Here we have 300 objects. It takes a little bit more time to get all the metadata out of here. But if I go back to the 50 or the 100 or the 300, you see that the local caching kicks in and provides the information much quicker. So I've shown already that you can change the column sets. So I changed it to the from the to the CC, and so that means that in a given view you can use the columns to sort it if you click on any one, or if you want to filter here and say I want everything with Peter, then I just get the ones that Peter has sent or that were sent to Peter, and so I can filter in the column values, and I can filter on multiple values. So that's a kind of a first set of search and filtering that are possible within the active navigation structure. So as I go along, let's go to the 50 objects, and if I click here on the document itself, I can even read the emails. And as you can understand, the Trafigura traders, they want to be able to browse through the content and read it very quickly so that they can take a decision on the next business move that they need to make on a certain trade. So especially the oil traders need their information instantly so that they can take the right decision. And that's why this interaction and having this speed in the interaction is very important for these people. Going to the standard demonstration, here we have a navigation structure of, let's say, a general company. I do see them all because I have the permissions, and you can build a folder structure with templates, so I can easily say, okay, a new folder, and I will use a folder template like project. And if I want to have it project A, B, C, D, E, F, G, voila, then the structure is available to be used. So if you have constructed your own folder templates, these can be used to create, for as far as the user has the permission, he can create a folder structure into this organization. So let's continue with the finance. I will change the column set to invoice, because that's more relevant here. If I click on the invoice, I get already some of the content, and you can see that some are document specific, so those are invoices. Some are generic or hasn't been defined yet. So if I change it to a specific document model, like a contract, then I see certain metadata appearing. If I want to be consistent, I must change it into an invoice. And then I get the metadata of the invoice document type. So here I'm going to use Saxion. Voila. What happens is I have been using the value of Saxion before. It is a school in Holland that recently signed up for the Alfred Desktop, and I have used their name in a demonstration 2 weeks ago. So that value is now available through the Alfresco Solar indexing, and I can complete here the project name, desktop at Saxion, and supplier name is XeniT, of course, and I can add here a reference. And as you can see here, there's some limitations, some restrictions that have been built into the document model of Alfresco, and due to that, you create a certain behavior into the Alfred Desktop. So I cannot save the record if I do not comply with the limitations as defined in the fields. And once I've done this, so I can save the record, and then you see that it has become an invoice and that the metadata is available in the columns. So the Alfresco has a very powerful concept of aspects. We have here several document models on this demo environment, and of which the standard document model, and I hope to, there are too many aspects, I hope to find through this filtering the classifiable, meaning I want to be able to add categories to it. And as you can see, also the desktop provides for a dynamic behavior in applying extra aspects to a certain record. So I can say it's about engineering and marketing, and you can see that this field supports a multi-value, and I can save it here. As such, the classification is completed of this invoice. So what I have done is I've edited the metadata. I will now say yes, but these 4 records, in fact, they are all not from Alfresco and Acerta, but these contain multiple values, but there's an error, and I want it to be Saxion. So I can update multiple records, and you see in one move, I have updated 4 records. If you would like to do this in a web user interface or in the share user interface, then this would take you about 4 minutes to execute this. So it's clear that here the speed is not only in the interaction between the desktop and the server, but also in some functionality which is available into the desktop user interface. So we've run over some of the functionality. So the navigation is standard. It's also dynamic behavior, which I will explain later on. There are permissions that can be set. So if I go to a certain folder or an object, I can see that groups, so permissions are inherited from groups that are laying above, and but some permissions are set locally. And you can add here from Bella, it's the same name, of course, but just showing that you can search for groups or users. Building agency, and I can add the building agency and say yes, but he is a coordinator in this case, or I can remove the permissions here. The way you see it here, invoicing, going back to this folder structure, we talked about the navigation, we talked about the creation of the repository, we talked about editing metadata, changing the column sets. I will now add some of the contents, like here, these three, and I hope that they are not there. And if they are there, yes, you see that it is recognized that it is there, and I can say I replace it or I make a new version out of it. And if it is a new version, I can say it's a minor or a major, and I can provide some comments. So the three files are now uploaded. I can do the same with emails. If I have here 3 emails that I want to drag and drop into this environment, then the 3 emails are uploaded and I can start to classify them. As you know, Alfresco allows to automate a lot of the classification, and so you can say if you drop it into a certain folder, then automatically these becomes invoices or project document types, and they can inherit metadata from the folder that is above. I will show that at the end of the demonstration. So yeah, well, we have done some uploads. We should go for some creation of content. And if I go here and I want to create a new document, then I would be able to create it from a template. And if there are too many templates, so I can put it here even into category 3. But if there are 300 templates, I wouldn't mind. I would just say minutes of meeting, and then again, it filters the document template that I want to use. Filling in a title. Voila. And I'm creating the document. The document is created in the desktop. A working copy is created, so the edit offline activity is showing up, and the document is automatically opened. So notice that it is a working copy, and that I can start to type, and somewhere along the way I save the work, and but it's still on my desktop. Notice that if people go to the original version, they see that Van Belle has locked it, and they can contact the person to unlock the content in case he's taking too much time editing. So if I am a multitasker and I work on 5 documents in the same time, then I can move to here, and there is Murphy showing up. So the documents I'm editing should show up here. Need to check that with our engineers. So it should show up, and it should allow me to move back to the location of the document itself. If I want to reopen it, I'll just double click the working copy, and the desktop will not download the server version, but will know that the local version is more recent, and it will open the local version, and you see that the edited content is still there. So I'm adding some more content into it, and I'm closing up the Word file. And at a certain moment, I will say, okay, I discard the changes, or I update main document. So in case that you are working on a lot of documents and you forget to upload them, then you can still say, okay, at the end of the day, if I close my Alfred Desktop, then please alert me that there are still working copies, and give me the choice to upload them, to check them in before the desktop is closed. So at that moment, your working copies are cleaned from your desktop and uploaded to Alfresco automatically. So the document has been created. I will change here now to columns, another column set, just the who and the when, and I will add here a specific column set, namely the label version, and I will put it a little bit further here and put it like that. And I would like to enable versioning. So in this case, I will, you see that edit online is also supported, but we do the demonstrations with the edit offline. And with the edit offline, I create again a working copy. The document is opened. I will add here another comment or complete document, and I will update the main document. And here again, I get the opportunity to say it's a minor or a major, and I save the document, and as you can see here, the document has been updated. If I want to see the version history of that document, show version history, then I see that I have two versions, and this enables me to compare the versions. So what the desktop will do is it will download the two versions and use the local functionality in Microsoft Word to compare the two documents, and it will show the difference into the two versions. So that is standard functionality that comes out of the box and is available to your users. Good. We have talked about the creation of content. Obviously, you can copy and the documents. Let's run a little bit to other functionalities that are available. So I can copy and cut and delete. Those are the standard functionalities, but I can copy a download link, or I can send it as an attachment, or I can send it as a link. So if I send it as a link, then your standard email will be opened, and a link of the document will be pasted into the email, and you can send it off. Now, what is the difference between a download link and a thread link? The difference is the following. If I send off a new email and I take the link of these three, for instance, and I say copy thread link, and it could be any kind of object. So even if you say, okay, I want to redirect him to the show browser, thread link, I can send a link on the any object that is in Alfresco. And so if I click on this one here, then it jumps to my standard browsers, and it allows me to go to open it into Alfresco Share, or to open it in Alfred Desktop. So users that don't have a desktop user interface, they will be led immediately to the Alfresco Share. If it is the desktop available, then you can click it, and a separate tab will be opened. and the objects that is behind the link will be highlighted. So that means that for interaction with others and other applications like an SAP in Staatswerke München, they have thread links into the SAP, and if they click this link, then the Alfred Desktop will be opened instead of them jumping to the web user interface. So the Alfred Desktop user interface becomes a complete work environment to which you can refer from third-party applications. So we will get deeper into that later on in the use cases. Important is, next one is the search. Search we are going to execute here on the building agency, and I want to search on simple things, and I can search on everything, or on the full text, or on a specific document model. That's all possible, but let's start with something simple. I'm looking for thread in everything. I get a certain result, and here I have my facets that become available, and I can narrow down the result clicking on the facets. So these facets are the same facets as you find back in the Alfresco share facet definition, and so they become available in the search filters. If the result is too wide, I can still search down. Notice that the search starts from a specific object, a specific part of the repository, and I can change that or narrow it down to subfolders. Here I can start to define my specific personal query with the creation date, or even here with classifiable or whatever business metadata that is defined here, non or primo. And I can again change the column set or personalize the column set in the result. Again, I have the metadata and the preview available for the result, so it's very easy to consult. And at the end, if that query definition is interesting and you want to repeat it later on, you can save it and save also the column sets that you have selected. If you do so, then it ends up as my saved searches, and you see that I have here a query for an invoice or a query for an email, and that is a template for email search with the from, the to, the CC, or the subject, and you get a certain result. So very handy to define, as the saved searches becomes a kind of a first filtered business view that you can create into the environment, onto the environment. So the other points that I want to show in this brief demonstration, because we are limited in time, are the favorites. The favorites are nothing special for a name, but it is a full navigation structure which is not available in Microsoft Explorer nor in Alfresco Share. There you have some objects that you can define as your favorites, but the navigation, the dynamic drag and drop behavior is not available there. So if I have 3 objects and I want to upload them again, I want to upload to project B, I just hover over it and I go to plans and I say I drop it in the plans, and voila, okay, the 3 objects are available for that navigation structure. So you can imagine that if you have 1,000 projects, that you don't want to navigate through 1,000 projects to get there, but you would prefer to say, okay, I have my favorites of the week, and I organize my working environment, my personal working environment here at the top level. As you can see, or I will show you that if somebody would say, okay, I have 01 communication as favorites, but that for 5 projects, he can personalize that. That was for project C. He can personalize the first level of the object. Once it goes down, he's into the structure itself, and there the permissions are applied as they are set into the standard repository. So from the standard repository, you can really build your personal working environment, and you are still working into the standard repository. So we are getting closer to the end user to make him feel comfortable setting up his way of working while still working in the corporate structure. My sites, you can navigate to the sites, the shared sites of Alfresco. If you do so through the standard repository, then you have to drill down a few levels before you get to the document library. And to do so, yeah, you get to here. If you are explicit member of a share site, then this share site will appear in my site. And what will appear is the document library will appear here with the commercial description of the share site, not the technical description. So if I go here to the branding, or I go there to the branding, it's the same way of working. So also here, the dynamic behavior of drag and drop is available, and I can create also favorites from this navigation structure. So all to make it much easier for the end user to interact with this environment. So the last things I wanted to show or to review with you on functionality is that when you have selected some metadata columns, whether it is in the search or in the navigation, then you can also export the metadata of the selected columns. So if you would want to get the status of a certain case, then you can search or navigate to it, select the right column set, and export it into a report, a CSV file, or an Excel file. That is possible. See also that we can compress and save a full folder structure into a zip file on your desktop, and we have more functionality around this to be discussed later on. One thing I wanted to show here is that you can easily integrate third-party applications like that are pre-integrated with Alfresco, like A-Render. A-Render is an annotation tool from a French partner, Arandor, and I can, with this application, I can annotate a document which will then be put in Alfresco as a separate layer of annotations. And so this is a demo. In that way, we can enrich the user interface of or the functionality which with functionalities which are pre-integrated with Alfresco, and that in the same working environment. So last thing that I want to show in the demonstration is here Ville de Liège, and they have defined a navigation structure and built a case management process with the inheritance of metadata. So each time you go deeper into the structure, then you extend the document model and you inherit metadata from the object that is the parent. So at the end, you get objects which inherit a lot of metadata, and that you can complete the editing of metadata. So you see, I cannot edit because I don't have permissions to edit, but you could complete then the last detail of the document, and this helps you to automate already some interaction by the end users. See also that the Ville de Liège is using also a lot the concept of smart folders, and you can see that they show the different folders or files that are defined in this virtual structure and that are in fact classified in the standard navigation structure. So it's an easy way to create business views on your standard navigation structure. Additionally to that, XeniT has defined the concept of virtual folders. The virtual folders is also a definition of a search query on a specific part of your repository and with a specific definition of a column set. So in that sense, you can click on the query and you see the result in a specific business view. That allows you to create business view and see how the documents are processed through your organization. Obviously, again, the commands are available and you can edit the content and the metadata as you have the permissions to do so. Okay, I think this completes the demonstration of the first rich level of functionality. We will go back to the slide set to talk about a number of use cases, customer cases, to explain a little bit extra implementation functionality that we have executed or provided into real project implementation. So we will talk about two cases, City of New York and one Stadtwerke München. Stadtwerke München is the biggest German municipality utility. So they are responsible for the distribution of gas, water and electricity and some more things. So they really have to maintain and keep up to date the information around the work and exit and prepare the work on the infrastructure, the connections, the extensions, and all this, all the documentation around this work is managed in an Alfresco environment with an Alfred Desktop user interface on top of it. So it's about 10,000 connections a year that I need to implement. Each project, whether it is an extension of the network or an update or a connection which is requested, the project is initiated in the SAP environment. From there on, they push the button and give a command to Alfresco to create a project structure. It's a smart folder which contains scripts to assist and guide the users in executing their work. So first of all, they need to assemble the information on the work. They need to catch up or get the original plans, then define the work, do the offer request, review the tenders and the offers, the contracts, cost calculations, and so on and so on. When they execute the work, then the workers provide annotations on the plans and give the result or a description of the result of the work back to the department that needs them to update the plans. And it's only when the full record and the plans are up to date and complete that the whole project folder will be moved to an archive and second level archive. So the full model is, or the full process is modeled within Alfresco, and within the Alfred Desktop, we supported specific commands to be executed by their operators in support of their work processes. So these setup allow for a very smooth integration between SAP, because the work environment is only one user interface, is the Alfred Desktop, and even if they click on a link to an object in Alfresco, so if they click in SAP on a link to an object in Alfresco, then the desktop is open for them, so they don't have to jump to one user interface or the other. Here, the user adoption, like in all the projects, is definitely 100%, and you have multiple thousands of users that are using the Alfred Desktop user interface towards Alfresco. So it looks like this. The commands are in German, so we by default support multiple languages. And if there are specific commands that you can add in your project, also these can be translated into multiple languages. So it's up to the customer to say which language he wants to use towards his workforce. Here it is shown that to validate that the documentation in this project folder is complete, you cannot do it by running through the whole folder structure. You will open a separate tab and a report will indicate that the documentation is complete, or and that he can send it off to the archive, or that he needs to continue working in this to update the quality of the documentation. Here we have a view on an overview of workflows that they launch, and they launch it in pool. So the people, part of the pool, they look to the pool and they claim 5 to 10 workflows a day that they execute, and then next day they claim another 5. And that's how gradually they work through all the tasks that they have. You can get overviews of your own tasks, but also from your department, so that you get different dimensions of the overview of the workflows, and that you can follow up if something is stuck into your organization or not working optimally. So here, City of New York, Department of Sanitation, they work already 7 years with Alfresco, and it's a large organization responsible for keeping the city clean, but more importantly, to keep the streets free in the winter of snow. That's a very huge job, and it must be very well organized. So more and more of the activities of the department are managed also into Alfresco, or at least the document part of it, the documentation part of it. One of the applications is follow up on the medical absence of the people. Other is organizing the work. So you have both HR and operational, finance, legal. More and more departments are knocking at the door to get part of, or to be part of the document management system at DS New York. The main reason that they started to use Alfresco is and Desktop is that they want to get rid of the papers, and that's true for everybody. But they were looking for a very easy navigation, easy metadata editing, and easy search. And they had a huge challenge with user adoptions and also with performance. Performance of uploading large files was very heavy and even impossible. So when they had a large file, most of the interfaces that they tried used the semis. One way or the other, it was aborted, and they were not able to upload the full file. Starting to use Alfred Desktop, all those concerns were moved away, and they were able to move pretty quick forward, starting with several departments, getting them on board and letting them use the Alfresco environment with a specific document model and specific document views, both in the navigation as in the search result. So the search is very important, it's very intuitive, and they can organize themselves. Other department is Department of Transportation. They manage 800 infrastructures, tunnels and bridges. And obviously the first concern was keeping the plans up to date and being able to, like Stadtwerke München, have the documentation of all those works and activities well managed. So they work a lot with AutoCAD. Also, one department of Stadtwerke München is doing this, and so being able to keep that up to date and being able to interact with it was very important. They had no experience with Alfresco, so they started from zero, but they immediately went for the Alfred Desktop user interface, as they were also looking into heavy user adoption effects. The first part that started to use was the engineering team. Nevertheless, nowadays, legal is already on board, and more departments are also joining the club of users. So I think it was 5 months ago where we really had the first contact. Everything is fine and running into operations and extending as we speak now. Here we have the example of the integration. They use also a render, and as you can see, they preferred to have the a render preview with the capabilities of annotating it into the standard preview of the navigation, instead of having it as a separate tab. So it's another example of how you can configure the desktop according to your needs in a project. So here we are in the Q&A session. I do not know if there are any questions at this moment. Let me check. I think on the, okay. I have not really some questions and answers. So with this, I went a little bit longer than planned, but I hope it was interesting for you. With this, I conclude this webinar. In case you are interested and would like to try it out, feel free to get in touch with us. You can get a free trial account on our trial servers, or just get in touch, take a picture of this QR code and get in touch with one of our collaborators to schedule a one-on-one meeting or a meeting with your users, so that we can provide you a remote demo to your organization and discuss the usage of Alfred Desktop into your organization and supporting your use case. Okay, I believe with this we can conclude the webinar. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a pleasant day. Until later. Bye for now.